We might as well give them that title if we play how we're playing now against Chelsea in our next home game. Welcome back to the Arsenal Humans podcast with me, Luce. I hope you're all good. I feel like I'm trying to be all uplifted, all happy and bubbling. But if I'm being completely honest, I feel like this week for Arsenal, obviously the men are on their international break, so it's just been all focused on the women's. But I feel like the women's side haven't been where they normally are this season. I feel like there's a lot of disconnection, there's a lot of confusion. We're just missing something. Something's not clicking. And I can't really put my finger on one thing. I can think of a few different things which I'll chat about in today's episode, but I can't think of just one thing. And basically, I'm just going to get straight into the warm-up poll because it's actually not a warm-up poll, it's more of a warm-up question. Because I was like, I need your help to answer, if that makes sense. I couldn't think of a poll answers, if that makes sense. So you just select one of the options I've come up with. I was like, I need your opinions on this. So I put up on my Instagram story, which is luce.case, if you want to vote for future polls. I put up the UWCL's post of the league standings, which shows that Arsenal are in 5th position. Out of 12, obviously West Ham are at the bottom. They haven't got any points from the games. Liverpool are just above them, similar position for them. Then look at the other end of the table. You've got Chelsea, who are on 16 points, Man City on 15, United on 14, Spurs on 12, Arsenal on 11. Arsenal are 5th. And it's just, I'm like, what's going on? What is going on? I just don't know what's really happening because I just feel like there is something missing. And that's why I put that up on my story with the question, one word to summarise Arsenal women's season so far. And obviously I have a word that I like to summarise it with, but I'm going to answer it, like, I'm going to say a few of yours. So one person said underwhelming. I very much agree with that. I think because we've set the bar so high that it's just sort of like, if we don't come in that top 3, if we aren't winning all these games that we're used to winning, then it seems a bit anticlimactic. My friend Joe from work, he said, not as good as Chelsea's. He put it all without spaces. So technically, one word. He's a massive Chelsea fan though, so I don't want to hear it. Same for my friend Chelsea, actually. I'm naming and shaming all these Chelsea fans. My friend Chelsea said, if I speak, I'll be in trouble. Yeah, you will. You shouldn't have even responded, Chelsea. No, honestly, this is bad. Some people have just put sad faces. Some people have just put emojis. This is actually really sad. And yeah, we've just had a few other ones of like, if Spurs come above us, if London City Lionesses come above us, obviously sides that are either newly promoted or they're like, we just don't want that to happen. Obviously, all these people are like, this isn't one word, because I think one word is quite hard. But yeah, you can just sort of tell by those responses. Obviously, I haven't read out all of them, but thank you if you did reply to it because it helps me with obviously creating this content. I think the word I'm going to go for is disconnection. I just feel like at Arsenal there is a disconnect between not only the defensive to the midfield to the attacking players, but just within all of those positions. We've seen a few defensive mistakes recently, which has cost us certain goals, which is just... it's just brought a negative impact on the game as a whole, all this disconnection, and I don't know why that is. I'd look at a team like London City Lionesses and be like, right, there's going to be some disconnect because you're all big signings, you're all new names, new egos in this squad. You need to get used to each other. Arsenal have only signed 4 players and only 2 of them really consistently have been playing this season so far. So for me, I'm like, why is there that disconnect? It doesn't really make too much sense. But overall, from that like sort of consensus I've got from any Arsenal fans, whether you answered that poll, whether I've been speaking to you at Arsenal games, just the overall feel of Arsenal women right now isn't good. I don't know how else to word it. It is underwhelming. Everyone just seems a bit defeated. I think defeated is another good word because even though we got the 3 points at the weekend against Brighton at the Emirates, there's just not that excitement. There's something missing. And I know so many people question, like, what is it that needs to click? What is not clicking at Arsenal right now? And there's all these questions, and I'm hoping I don't have to ask another poll like that in the next few weeks because I hope something can change. I hope that the Brighton win was the first change of many things, and that will give us a bit of a confidence boost. Obviously, we have a Champions League game to look ahead to, but then we are in the international break. Maybe that's a time for us to reset, recharge, regroup. But yeah, I don't really know. Either way, I just feel like it's a bit of a flat atmosphere at Arsenal, and I guess I'm going to have to explain why that is. So yeah, let's get into the main part where I'll reflect on the 2 games we played this week, one in the Champions League and one in the WSL. Okay, so I guess we're going to have to go to the game which happened literally a few hours after I posted my video last week, which obviously was looking ahead to that game. I predicted it to be a 2-2 draw because I thought it was going to be a tough one against Lyon, and I was not wrong because Arsenal ended up losing 1-2 to Lyon, or 2-1. How would I word that? Arsenal ended up losing 2-1 to Lyon. Yeah, I guess that makes more sense. Anyways, no matter how you worded it, it wasn't really a great start to our Champions League campaign, and I think we had so much pressure on us because we just did the unthinkable. We were the underdogs going into that final against Barca. It's something I'm going to constantly repeat because it shows that you can do anything. You can never underestimate people. But now people, fans, broadcasters are like, this is Arsenal. Arsenal won the Champions League. They're going to enter it winning it again, or at least have those high expectations. But I think this game was another example of the word I used to describe at the beginning, disconnection. I just don't think there was that connection in certain link-ups, in maybe the rotations. I don't know. There's a few things we can take from this game, and I kind of have tried to just put it into 3 points, as I normally do. If you're new here, thank you for joining me. I hope this hasn't scared you away, the negativity, firstly, around Arsenal. But I basically, for each game, I just break down 3 points, because we could be here all day if I broke down the whole 90 minutes, or even if we look at the Brighton game this weekend, it was 103 minutes. So if I break down everything to do with it, we'd be here for a while. So I try and summarise it. So the first thing I took away from this was that we do have the talent, we do have the players. The link-up play in the first start of the game, so good. We start the game, we came straight out, we were fighting, we got that Russo goal, and that was because obviously Mariona was linking it to Mead linked it to Russo slotted it away. It was something, it's a classic goal we've seen basically, and it was just perfectly done. And I watched that, obviously on Disney Channel now, that's the whole thing is, the whole Champions League coverage is over on there. I watched that and I was like, okay, nice. There's actually, now I think about it, there's actually something quite poetic about how we ended last campaign and we've started this campaign, because Blackstenius obviously slotted it away against Barca to lift the Champions League trophy, and then we opened this campaign with Russo slotting it away, almost symmetrical to, they were almost aligned, the goals looked pretty similar. So something quite poetic about it, but the sad thing is we weren't able to maintain that, and that's my second point. We sort of lost control, and we've seen this quite a few games recently. This isn't just based on this game, but we either concede and then we're like, oh, okay, let's get back into this, or we take that early lead and then we just become a bit complacent. The minute they score, then we just go defeated. We're then following how they play, and we're not being as confident. Don't get me wrong, there's certain individuals that will always be striving for that ball and always been trying to get it and push up further, but I just feel like as a whole we just become a bit defeated with it, and that is something we've seen in quite a few games, and that's something we have to change. It's scary that our next home game is against Chelsea, and if we play how we're playing now, we're definitely not going to win that title. We might as well give them that title if we play how we're playing now against Chelsea in our next home game, basically. So the third thing, which it's annoying, it's another sort of negative thing, but I just feel like there's a few defensive errors. I'm not attacking any players. I'm not saying it's down to the players' defensive errors, even though, yes, there were a few mistakes. I think Lyon just came up stronger in their attack. Like, we know they have very good players. But I think also, like, the rotations, like, should we be rotating this much for a Champions League game? I know that obviously this is a game where you don't necessarily have to win it because there's 6 matches, but it just puts more pressure on us down the line. And when you look further down the line at the end of the group stages, that's going to be when the season's starting to get even more serious. That's when the FA Cup's going to get involved, the League Cup's going to get involved, and you have all these other competitions. This is where you want to make sure that you can be top of that Champions League, so it's almost not as much of a worry in the back of your mind, if that makes sense. Obviously that hasn't happened, and we will be playing the Champions League, our next Champions League fixture in a couple of days' time, so we definitely need to win that. But obviously I'll get onto that in a few minutes at the end of this episode. But yeah, I just feel like there's a few takeaways. It started off well. The minute we lost the game by going 2-1 down, we lost control, and that's something that I don't know how we need to maintain it, but we do. But it's not all negative, because we actually managed to do that. We managed to maintain our lead. We had good management in the next game, which literally happened like 2 days ago. Arsenal won, Brighton 0. I did predict it to be a 2-0 win, but 1-0 isn't too far off, and to be fair, the amount of shots we had, I think this was a common theme when I was chatting to any Arsenal fans after the game. When we were sat in the pub, everyone was like, we probably should have won about 4-1, 5-1 even. Like, we had so many chances and we kept hitting the crossbar and stuff. So it wasn't that we weren't trying. So we had control of the game, but it was just so scary, I think, because we almost had the memories of that Villa game where suddenly they came back to equalise and then they went on to win the game. We were scared. I was scared that could happen, because at any moment, a 1-0 win is so unsettling, because at any moment the other team can equalise and then go on to win. Either way, you're dropping points, and that's something that we really, really can't afford to do. I mean, we couldn't afford to do it against United. We couldn't afford to do it against City. Couldn't afford to do it against Villa, but we did. So I think it's just really, these games are so crucial. So overall, my first takeaway from this game is we managed to get the 3 points. I know the bar is on the floor. But we did have better composure than we previously have had. And like I said, we managed to keep that lead, which for us is really promising. It's encouraging. Something has flipped. And it's annoying that it's taken a few games for us to not do as well and to not have that confidence, for us to then wake up and be like, right, we need to actually do something here. But we managed to do it. The second takeaway from this game is I think there was some effective experimenting from Slegers. One duo that I want to highlight is Ford and Smith. It's interesting because normally I think it's either or. I think either Smith starts and Ford comes on, or Ford starts and Smith comes on. But that's because we've got likes of Mead, Kelly, Morgan. We've got so many attacking players that can slot in, basically. So it was nice having both of them on the pitch at the same time. And also that, in a weird way, that duo basically, because of their combinations, it managed to combine together to cause that deflection, which caused the 1-0 win, which actually, when you think about it, the fact that our 1-0 win didn't even come from our own goal, it basically came from a deflection. I think it actually did go down as a Smith goal, but it is a bit frustrating that we're literally winning because of a deflection. I don't know if that makes sense, but either way. And the final thing is that Arsenal finally have shown this season that they can actually keep a lead. They don't need to concede to win. They don't need to go on the back foot to draw. They don't need to score and then they don't concede. We basically proved that we can keep a lead, sort of similar to what I said in my first point. But I think it's just so crucial because something we're missing is that energy. Don't get me wrong, I was sat at the Emirates and myself and the people around me, we were all saying that we're not feeling the most excitement being at Arsenal right now. There's something definitely missing. I mentioned this obviously at the start, but there were moments and glimpses of excellence. There were glimpses of energy when we were hitting the crossbar, when we were having corners, when we were driving up the pitch, getting free kicks. There were moments that I was like, okay, this is exciting, and moments where the crowd would start making noise. But apart from that, it just felt a bit flat, the atmosphere, and I think that is because of what was happening on the pitch. So I think, there's a lot we can take from the last couple of games, the last couple of months, and if I'm being completely honest, we can take a lot from it. But that's basically a look back. It's not the most positive episode I've done. It's probably one of the more negative episodes I've done, but I feel hopeful. I think we've come away from this game knowing that we can keep that lead, and that is something that is so important, especially because our next game is against Benfica. And you know what? Let's get into the predictions now. Okay, so we're already at the predictions part of this episode. So this is where I'll look ahead to the games, and we've actually only got 2 games this week again. The women are in the Champions League on Thursday night, so in 2 nights' time, and then the men are back in the Premier League after their international break on Saturday. Firstly, looking obviously chronologically at the women's side, I'm going to straight off the back predict it to be a 3-2 win against Benfica. I do think that this is a must-win game. I feel like I've been saying that phrase a lot recently, and sometimes it's not really gone my way. But this is because this is our second out of 6 games that we're playing in the new Champions League format. And every win is crucial because the points obviously add up. I mean, luckily for us, we've seen other teams drop points that you'd think wouldn't. So obviously Chelsea drew last week as well, but we can't be relying on other teams' downfall. We have to focus on ourselves and we have to get these 3 points. It is quite interesting because both sides are entering after a 2-1 defeat. So I feel like both sides won't have too much confidence in the Champions League. But at least for us, we're entering after winning our first game in probably about 3-4 UWCL games. So we have a bit of confidence at least. So I'm confident we can get on the score sheet and we can maintain that win We just can't be pressured too much, but we know Benfica probably will apply that pressure. So yeah, I guess as a whole, that is on Thursday in the Champions League, 8 p.m. That will be, I'm assuming, probably just Disney Plus, because all the broadcasting rights are there now. But yeah, I feel more confident going into this game. I think we need to win this game, and I think it's nice that we've got this just ahead of the international break, so that when we're ready to reset, recharge, we can look back at our last two fixtures, one in the Champions League, one in the UWCL, and be like, we won both. That would be amazing. That would fill us with the confidence to then be like, so what worked in these last two games that wasn't working before? And that's when we can start having those positive chats. And I feel like, you know what, end of this episode, we're going to spin it. It's going to be a positive end, because I do feel like there is hope. We're not ruling anything out right now, but I think we do need to get that win on Thursday, and then we can have even more confidence going into, obviously, the international break, and then leading up until Christmas. We do have a tough run of a few games, especially that Chelsea one. So that's something that we've really got to keep an eye out for. But yeah, overall, I feel like with the women's side, I've spoken a lot this episode, quite a lot of negativity, but let me know your thoughts down in the comments, because I think it's really important for us to share what we think is going wrong, what we think is going right, just to create that community feel, because this is where you see what Arsenal fans are loyal, what Arsenal fans stick together and support one another, even when it's not all sunshine and rainbows right now at the women's side. It is a bit disheartening, it is a bit underwhelming, but there are still quality moments in those games that obviously I mentioned more so in the Brighton game that we can hold on to, and we know that there is excellence. We know we have a great squad. We have maybe too many players, which is a good situation to be in. So I think, yeah, it's about just utilising it and how we can bounce back from that. So overall, I'm feeling hopeful for the future. I just feel like the recent form hasn't been good enough, and we all are aware of that. Moving on to the men's game, I haven't actually spoken about the men this episode, but I feel like they pretty much dominated the last few because there's been so many men's fixtures. But they're back. Obviously, Arsenal men sit top of the Premier League, and this is a game that I'm going to predict it to be a 3-0 win. I think they have to win it if they want to maintain that lead. I mean, if we look at Liverpool this season, you could see how easily it is to just drop off. They've now come to second, and they could potentially keep dropping off because obviously they were so used to fixating on that last-minute winner, basically. And that obviously didn't work against Palace when they lost 2-1, didn't work against Chelsea when they lost 2-1. So I feel like we do have that position at the top, but we need to maintain that position because everyone's going to be coming for us and everyone's going to be fighting. So we've got to just maintain it, basically. It is quite an interesting game, this one, because I feel like there's an injury dilemma on both sides. Like both Arteta and Silva have to figure out what they're doing because they have key players out. But obviously this is the Arsenal Humans podcast, so I'm just going to focus on Arsenal. Obviously we've got Odegaard and Madueke out. Madueke, I think, is the start of November. Odegaard, obviously, last week's episode, if you go back, I was talking about his MCL injury, and I was like, I don't know how long he'll be out for. Could be for up to 2 months. Turns out he is basically going to be out the whole of November. Could come back towards the end of November. So, yeah, it's a big loss missing those two. I think those two, especially Madueke, got off to a great start this season, slotting in for Saka whilst he was obviously injured. And then Odegaard, only recently in the last couple of games, his form has come back and everyone's been trusting him more and celebrating him more. And now they're both out. I feel like it's a big loss. Luckily for Arsenal, I think we do have the players to slot in. But where we're now going to be competing on multiple fronts in different competitions, we do need that squad depth, and that ultimately is why we brought in so many players, so that we can compete on all these different fronts. It is just quite nice and quite reassuring for the men's side that Arteta has the cover, because if you look at last couple of seasons, when we had one player injured, like we had Saka injured or Odegaard injured, the game would just crumble. We would just be like, what's going on? Whereas now we've got so many players that, obviously we've got the likes of Saka back, we've got Saliba back in that squad, we've got Nketiah, he will actually be available for this game, obviously another defender to add to that squad depth. So I reckon if he does come on, he'd probably come on and last like 20-30 minutes of the game. But I think it's just so crucial that we've got the squad depth, that we're not panicking, that we've got 2 injuries to 2 very good players in our squad, very crucial players, because we do have other important players as well. So it's not too problematic, and I do think we can get that 3-0 win, especially because our defensive unit is so good. I'd love to see Gyökeres on the score sheet. That is one thing I'd love this season. But yeah, I feel like because the men have had a bit of a break from it all, we've obviously seen certain players excel in their international games. It's nice to have them back. at Arsenal, and hopefully they can continue that winning streak and stay top of the league. That is the game. Right, okay, that is the end of the episode. I feel like it was a bit of a mixed one, if I'm being honest. Obviously, with the women's side, we had a couple of games that weren't the most convincing games, even though we did get the 3 points in one, which is very good. Good confidence boost, hopefully. The men, we obviously didn't have anything to reflect on for this week, but we've got a lot of hope to look forward to because we are still top of the Premier League. So hopefully we can keep that top spot. Yeah, I feel like that's everything I had to say. If you guys have anything you want to say at all, whether it's focusing on the men, focusing on the women, anything at all, whether you think Odegaard's going to be a big miss and that's going to cost us this game against Fulham, or whether you think that Kyra Cooney-Cross needs to get even more minutes. It's good we've seen her play recently, but whether you think she should be starting. All these questions, I'd love you to just give any thoughts on Arsenal as a whole. This is a time where we have to stick together because I know obviously the men are excelling, but if you are more focused on the women's side, it's been kind of a bit of a deflating season so far. You know what? I'm bringing out all these words now. That one word thing, I'm just pulling them out of my head. I don't know where they're coming from. But it's sad that they're all quite negative, all got quite negative connotations, but it's kind of true right now. But yeah, hope everyone's good. If you did enjoy this video and you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. If you're watching YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify, please give me a follow over there. We have another week of exciting football coming up, so I hope you enjoy it. And I hope next week I'll be bringing out another episode, just me, on Tuesday, and hopefully with an Arsenal fan on this Friday, so in a few days' time. So there's a lot of content for you guys to watch basically over here. So I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I'll see you either on Friday or I'll see you next week.